Let's start with 3 ohms. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are in Drg Drishya Viveka, the 8th session, and as I have explained before, there are 3 major sections in this text. We have covered the first section, which is the main section, from verse 1 to 21. Then we have covered the second section. We completed the second section last week, which was from verse number 22 to 31. We will start with the 31st verse today. That's the last verse of this particular section. And then we move on to the third section, which is the Mahavakya portion, which is the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita, essence of the entire Upanishads. This is the goal, the destination, the final step in the spiritual study. So today's talk, we will start with verse number 30. We have finished the meditation portions last week, and we talked about 6 types of meditations. 3, which is called internal meditation, and 3 meditations which are external. Whenever we talk about internal meditation, it is to observe our mind, our thoughts, and then remain as Sakshi, remain as the witness of the thoughts. That is the internal meditation. The culmination is I alone am without the mind. That is what is called as Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. The second type of meditation is external meditation, which is also called as open eye meditation. In this, what we do is we look at the world, the entire world, and say that this entire world is existing, and there is an existence principle, the isness in this entire universe. This existence principle is a separate principle. Like the consciousness principle, the existence principle is an independent principle. That is what all the Upanishads say. So when I look at the external world and I say, yes, there is a world, and then the world keeps on changing, but the isness in the world does not change. The consciousness in me does not change, but the thoughts keep on changing. When I remove the changing aspect and hold on to the changeless consciousness inside, or the changeless existence principle outside, I can then say that this consciousness and this existence principle is one and the same. And Equating the consciousness and the existence as one principle is called as aikyam or oneness, seeing the oneness in the entire universe. I remain as this one principle called as Atma. That is the final culmination of all types of spiritual study. Any type of spiritual study you undertake in any culture, ultimately they lead to this one common principle which exists between me and the world. You remain as that common principle and conduct the entire life. The 30th verse says this says, when the identification with the body disappears, and where does it disappear? It disappears in the self. It disappears in the Atma. And wherever, once this has happened, then what happens? Then what? How is the experience? Wherever the mind goes, there one experiences meditation. So this is the result of the 6 types of meditations which you conduct. And like I said last time, you can take any form of meditation. You don't have to go through all 6. And then you can just practice 1 or 2 of them, whatever suits you. What is the fruit of meditation? The fruit is the identification with the body-mind as the self is dropped. Identification still continues with the body-mind, but it is not considered as the self, as the Atma. Because now I have discovered that I am the pure consciousness principle. Mind is eternally in meditation. That is why we can say I am Nitya Muktaha, I am ever free. Because I don't identify the thoughts as me. I don't identify the body as me. Listening to the scriptures, called as Shravanam, is the primary sadhana, primary discipline to be followed in the spiritual study. The second sadhana or discipline is meditation. Meditation is not compulsory. For certain minds who are already purified, just by listening to the scriptures, they can know that they are that pure consciousness. But to majority of us, meditation is an important step. Like the space is never limited by the presence or absence of a pot. When the pot is present, we say that space is there in the pot. When the walls of the pot are broken, the space inside the pot merges with the space outside. Then we cannot identify the space. It becomes indivisible, formless. But when the pot is there, we can know that there is space in the pot and we can identify the pot also. Similarly, consciousness, as long as the body surrounding the consciousness is there, the mind surrounding the consciousness is there, we can identify ourselves, or the body and mind, what they do is they manifest the consciousness. Like this, like the space. The pot manifests the space. Body and mind, they manifest consciousness. But when the body is gone, or even when we are sleeping, what happens is the identification with the body is gone and the mind is passive. Therefore, what happens? That one consciousness which was there in the body merges with the total consciousness. This is our observation, this is our experience, our anubhava in our sleep state. If you have this knowledge, So consciousness is always indivisible and it is not limited. That is what is the basic essence of this verse. If the body is present or not, I am Purnam. Purnam means full. I am not limited. Generally, what happens in life is a lot of thoughts come into our mind. I identify with the thoughts and then I become limited. Become a limited jiva. Only when I identify with my mind or the body, I am called as a jiva. Otherwise, I am called as Atma. Very simple. There are just two names. I am the consciousness with an incidental body, and I am not the body with consciousness. This is a very important principle of Vedanta. Science believes that consciousness is in the body, whereas Vedanta says, I am the consciousness and the body is in me, the mind is in me. They are temporary phenomena which happens in this world. But I, the consciousness, can remain without this body or mind. This is how liberation or moksha takes place. The more we claim Atma as my real nature, what happens is my ahamkara, the ego I, which is always connected with the body and mind, it tends to lose its significance. But today, what is our condition? I am totally with ahamkara. Suppose there is a person who has never come to this Vedantic study. What will be his experience? His experience will be, I am the body, I am the mind. He undergoes the whole cycle of birth and death. And then again, he repeats the same cycle again. According to the law of nature, he will take another body. Again, he completes it. Like that, the whole cycle repeats itself. What happens to a person who has this Vedantic knowledge? That is what we are going to see in the next few verses. Deha Abhimana is the body identification. Abhimana means identification. There are two types of identifications. One is called as Samanyam. Samanyam means general identification, which is caused by the prarabdha karma of the body. See, according to the law of nature, the body takes birth because it has to do certain actions and exhaust the punya papam, exhaust the merit and demerit in the body by experiencing either pleasure or pain. This is the purpose of taking up the body. That means throughout my life, I go through the cycle of pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain. If you analyze a day, you will understand what this significance is. You'll find there are certain days I am happy, certain days I am not so happy. This fluctuation is what is caused by the thoughts in the mind, and the thoughts come because of karma phalam. So biological experience of pain or hunger cannot go away. Even a jnani, a wise person, will undergo this pain. But this biological pain of having a headache is different than an emotional pain. Emotional sorrow is caused by thoughts in the mind. Vedanta's aim is to attack the emotional side of the mind. So when we are identifying with our emotions, then we complain that I am very sorrowful. This is the area in which Vedanta operates. and it tries to remove this particular identification. And once this identification is gone, then the second exercise begins is to know who is this soul in the body which is not identified with the mind or with the body. Then Vedanta comes and says that soul without the identification with the body or mind is the pure consciousness. The Visesha Amsha, that means a specific identification, is an intellectual conclusion. And what is the conclusion? I am this body. The body was born. I was born on so and so date. My body is having these problems. So these are all identifications only. The birth of the body or the death of the body is my death is what we currently believe. But according to Vedanta, this is not a fact. I exist as Atma without this body and mind. Not only I, all human beings, they exist. But this is not known. This aspect is covered. Therefore, the sense of mortality comes in because of ajnanam. Ajnana means ignorance, born out of identification. Vedanta destroys this conclusion of the intellect. In the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, the last verse of the second chapter, very important verse, it says, Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati Stitva Samantya Kalepi Brahma Nirvana Mrichati. What does it mean? It says that once I have disidentified with the mind, I am no longer deluded. Then I can be established in that one Atma, which is the same as the Paramatma, which is the totality. There's no more delusion in life. This body, then I can say, is an appearance, mithya. And all my experiences from birth till date, I can take it as pure appearances, but they come and go. They come and go, which is our real experience. I cannot hold on to any experience of my childhood. I cannot hold on to any experience of my adulthood, neither my middle age. Today, if you ask me or if you ask yourself, experiences have come which are all thoughts which I have experienced, but the one which is behind the thoughts, the consciousness has not changed. That is called as Satya. Aham Satya. Aham Satya means what? I am that pure, formless consciousness. Am I available only inside the body as the Chit? No. I am also available like the space is inside the pot. It's the same space as outside. Outside, it is called as Sat, as pure existence. All perceptions, they happen. I am aware of Satchit in the background always, and that is called as Sahaja Samadhi. That means I don't lose sight of who am I throughout my waking state. Very beautiful portion of the scriptures, how to lead a life totally free from sorrow. This is the technique. Like a musician on the Shruti, suppose there is a singer. The singer, especially in Carnatic music, Indian classical music, you will always have a Shruti. That means somebody is playing the tambura, which is a constant sound which keeps on happening throughout the concert. And the singer is always aware of his singing with reference to that with reference to that tambura sound. Nitya Chaitanyam is like that. That means I am pure formless consciousness is like the continuous music which is played throughout our waking state, dream state, sleep state. And this consciousness is not experienced only during waking, only during sleep, but it is there all the time. Only thing is, I was not aware of this till now, till the study came in. Now, the scriptures have taught me how to be aware of myself, my pure self. And this pure self does not require any light. It does not require any other instrument to become aware. I am aware all the time, and it is self-evident. Once I become aware of this awareness, consciousness, then I can say that I don't have any prarabdha karma. That means people who have done the Tattvabodha, they will know there is an account in my name to have thoughts in the mind by taking repeated births after birth. That account is closed. I no longer will have, not in this birth, but in future birth. Even in this birth, I'm not identified the thoughts as me. That is the central teaching. I remain as pure consciousness. So this entire waking state, I can take it as just an appearance, like how the dream comes and appears, the waking also comes and appears. When this teaching takes place and the intellectual conclusion is reversed, that reversal process is being explained now in the 31st verse. What actually happens in the intellect? Vidyate hridayat grantihi chidyante sarva samshayaha. That means the knot of the heart is cut. I will explain to you what is the knot. Shiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. Once this knot is cut, then what happens is the vision, a new vision comes to him. This particular verse is taken literally from an Upanishad called as Mundaka Upanishad. Same verse is repeated there in Mundaka Upanishad. What it says is that without this knowledge of Atma, we are all in ignorance. Ignorance about our spiritual nature, which is a higher nature. But once this knowledge comes to me through the scriptures, through our study like this, we have studied the Tattvabodha, we have studied the Atmabodha, now we are doing the Drg Drishya Viveka. So through these texts, what I have come to know is a new aspect of my own self. And then with reference to this aspect, I try to analyze myself. So when I do that, what happens is Ishvara, the God, becomes the cause of this body and mind on the world. This Ishvara means a God principle. There is a principle behind this universe which is unmanifest. I cannot see the God. I cannot feel the God. I cannot know the God. I can only understand there is a God. So Jiva is nothing else but in effect of that God principle, which is the controller of the 5 elements. Whereas my body and my mind is controlled by that one principle, who is the ultimate controller of this entire universe. This body, this jiva, is a karyam, it's an effect. This is the first teaching which I get, that there is some principle which is controlling this entire universe. It has got 2 forms, but the universe also has 2 forms, manifest and unmanifest. In the waking state, the universe is manifest. In the sleep state, it is unmanifest. And there is a knot. Now, this knot is called as the knot of ignorance. This ignorance is there in the intellect. And it is a mental ignorance. Because I don't know my own nature. I don't know the nature of Atma. And that is what is called as Ajnanam. This ignorance has got three knots. One is Ajnanam, ignorance about Atma. The second knot is called as Samshaya. Samshaya means I have a lot of doubts. Maybe I'm body, maybe I'm mind, maybe I was born, maybe, all what the scriptures is saying may not be true. Then Viparita Bhavana. Viparita Bhavana means no. How can the scripture say I am that one pure consciousness? I've never seen it in my life. Therefore, I conclude I am the body. That is called as Viparita Bhavana. Viparita Bhavana means conclude wrongly. Conclude making erroneous intellectual conclusion about myself. And what happens when I get to know this knowledge that I am pure consciousness and I exist by myself? It destroys all the three knots it destroys. And when it destroys all the three, then the Sanchita Karma, Agami Karma and Prarabdha Karma, that means the three reasons why this body comes into play, they are all destroyed. And the ego which rises and which falls is like the stars. The stars come during the night, again they disappear during day. The ego I, the doer I, the actor I comes in the waking, that actor I disappears in sleep, like the stars. So when the sun rises, I don't see the stars. Similarly, when the knowledge comes, then what happens is this ajnanam goes away. This subjective non-discrimination, that means not discriminating between Atma and the body, between the real I and the unreal I. The real I is what? The Chit, the pure consciousness. The unreal I is what? The body-mind complex. So the real and the unreal, they are not properly known. Therefore, they get tied up. That tying up is called as ignorance. The tying up of the Atma with the body and mind is called as ignorance. So this ignorance continues till I can drop these knots. And this knot ties me and I take the body as myself. And once I see the body as an object, the mind as an object, then I can say that that is only name and form, which is unreal. Whereas the real aspect of me is the consciousness or existence. And what is the solution for this mix-up? I take out the consciousness from the body-mind complex and keep it separately. Take out the Sat isness from the universe and I try to intellectually remove the existence principle. And then what do? I say the consciousness inside is the same as the existence outside. And then I say, I am that Satchit Atma. When I say that, that becomes Satyam. Satyam means independently existing principle. Mithya means appearing principle, which is dependent on this I. In the following verses, we'll see more and more deeper aspects of this. The removal of ego identification is a tough process, is a difficult process, not easy. And dropping this ego is called as moksha. Dropping the ego means only intellectually. Physically, our life will not change at all. We will still continue our life as because of the samanya ego. Samanya ego means the body and the mind, they have a natural tendency that will never go away because that's a part and parcel of the body and mind. What will go away is the sorrows which come and which the mind projects. That identification I will stop. Normally, I love my individuality. I want to be considered as a doctor, as a lawyer, as a famous lawyer in town, as a famous doctor, as a famous favorite yogi. I can do so many postures. Everybody recognizes me. These are all the ego. I'm rich, I'm poor. All these are all ego. I was sad, I was very happy. My family is extremely happy. They're well connected. All this is all ego. This ego I is the knot in the heart. Heart here means the intellect. And this is the individuality. Ego is another name of mortality, insecurity. Why do we say ego is mortal? Because it comes and goes. I wake up, I identify with my thoughts are changed, therefore, I no longer am identified with yesterday's happiness. Today another thought has come, I become sad. Tomorrow another happiness comes, to again. So happiness and sadness, loss and gain, pain and pleasure, these are all related to the ego. And identifying with them causes insecurity in myself. Whereas if I identify with the Atma, then I am always balanced. I'm not going with the fluctuations in my mind. I'm not identified. The fluctuations may still come because of prarabdha karma, but the impact of those fluctuations is reduced. This destruction of the ego I is called as Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti means the individuality by which I am identified. I don't identify that as myself. That individuality will still continue with the body. But I don't say that that is me. I say I am Atma. So once the knots are cut, I am free while living. This is the best part of Vedanta. They don't say that you will get Swarga. They don't say that you will have happiness in the heaven. They don't say that you will go to another loka, the Shiva loka, the Vishnu loka. These are all the stepping stones for a seeker. But the final truth, the Vedas, they say that you are free today. You can tell yourself, I am free. It is a fact. If you have complete Shraddha in the scriptures, faith in the scriptures, you can own up this pure consciousness as your real nature. What happens to Videha Mukti? Videha Mukti is when all the karmas end. When the body dies, the karmas end for the body. Then this particular jiva who was in the body, the soul in the body, he doesn't take another body because he knows that I am not the body. I don't need the body anymore, and he becomes free. So the benefit of this knowledge, the scripture says that you are free while living and you have also no rebirth. You won't keep on suffering the pains of the body's birth, death, disease. Who wants all that? But this is the solution which the scriptures give. And what happens to the knowledgeable person, the jnani, the wise man? He gets merged with the one principle, which we call it as Bhagwan, we call it as Ishvara, we call it Brahman, we call it Krishna, Devi, whatever you may call it. So he gets merged with that one principle. We can call it Atma. And then he gets freedom from rebirth. Then, to understand this principle of freedom, the Upanishads, generally they go deeper into the mind of a person. And then they teach a person that you have three levels of consciousness, three planes of consciousness. The one level is called as Vyavaharikam. Vyavaharika means I, the jiva, I, the soul, I experience the waking state. This waking state is with ego or without ego. When it is with ego, I am a sorrowful person, I'm a happy person, I'm a disturbed person. That is called as samsari. When I don't have this ego, as in sleep, I am very happy. Jivan Mukta, I am free. And if I know that my real nature, as in sleep, is the same, my nature always, which is what the Upanishads teach us, that aspect is called as Paramarthikam. Paramarthikam means a jiva, a person who, having identified with the body and mind, has got the knowledge of the scriptures. He drops his identification. The moment he drops his identification as not his real nature, that level of experience of that jiva with knowledge is called as a higher level. That higher level is called as Paramarthikam. It's very important to understand these three levels, because only when you understand these three levels, you will realize that there is a higher level of Atma. And this higher level of Atma, as without the body, without the mind, without the universe, it is there. It is a fact in this universe. And the teachings of the scriptures is all pointing to this one Paramarthikam state of mind. So the two levels are, one is Vyavaharikam, another is Paramarthikam. Vyavaharikam, I repeat, is the waking state. Paramarthikam is the state in which I am without the body, mind, and the world. And I am existing as Sat Chit Ananda. Then there is a in-between layer, it is called as Pratibhasikam. Pratibhasikam is the one experience of a jiva when he is in the dream state. When the mind is projecting, Pratibhasikam means projected jiva. The mind's thoughts, I identify with the pure thoughts of the mind, and then I do not experience my waking body, which is basically a dreamer actually. That is called as Pratibhasikam. That means there are three levels. The highest level is Paramarthikam. The second level is Vyavaharikam. The third level is Pratibhasikam. This is what the scriptures teach, and the scripture says, identify yourself with the Paramarthikam as consciousness, as the Drik. Drik means pure consciousness, the seer, the witness. In the first verse of the Drg Drishya Viveka, we discussed there are three seers. The sense organs are the seer, the mind is a seer, consciousness is the seer. And here it says that consciousness is a higher level called as Paramarthikam. With this, the second section ends. In many books, there are three types of books of Drg Drishya Viveka. One type of book deals only up to verse number 20. They don't go to the meditation aspect. They don't talk about the three levels of consciousness. The second type of textbooks which we find in the market, they have this meditation, but they don't have the three levels of consciousness. The Ramakrishna Mission book has got all the three sections. And that is what I am now going to take the third section of the Drg Drishya Viveka text, which is an elaboration of this three levels of consciousness. Paramarthika in verse 32, 33, 34, and 42. That means it tells me the higher nature of mind. Absolute nature, which is called as Sakshi or Kutastha. Kutastha means like an anvil, which never changes. It is never negatable. It is all pervading. It is not restricted to this body. It is there in all the bodies. It is there in all the places. It is there in all the time. It was there in the past. It is there now. It will ever be. Identifying with this Paramarthika Jiva, the pure consciousness, is the ultimate goal. Once I identify this, I can say I am immortal. And this is Advaitam by nature. Advaitam means that this whole waking and dream and sleep is all coming, and it comes in this consciousness and it goes out from there. It is these three states are only superimpositions, but this is the reality. Then the waking state, Vyavaharika, is discussed in 35, 36, and 37. And the dream state is discussed in verse number 38. The waking state is called as reflected consciousness. That means in this body, there is a reflection of consciousness, that is conscious number one. Reflection of consciousness is there in the dream state, in the dream mind, and in the dream body. That is called as reflection number two. And this, who is the cause of this waking state? The waking state is caused by, either you can say it is caused by me, myself, in my higher state, or you can say it is caused by Lord. We can say it is caused by the Shakti, the Maya Shakti of Ishvara. That means the Lord projects this entire universe and he takes it back into himself. That is what is the Vyavaharika. Whereas the dream is created by me, which I know. That is caused by my Nidra Shakti, my sleep power, the sleeping power. Suppose I didn't have the sleeping power, I would never dream, because I would ever remain in waking state. All the time in waking state. Who would enjoy this? Because it's full of problems. So Lord is extremely clever. He gives us a respite. He tells us, okay, go and rest and come back tomorrow morning. So the dream world is basically my own projection. It is my own power. And then I fold up that dream and then I wake up. We'll discuss that in the 38th verse. Now we will start the third section, which is the higher level, which is the oneness, how I can start seeing the oneness between me and this entire universe, which is in the form of Ishvara's form is the entire universe. So the 32nd verse is the introduction part. There are three conceptions of Jiva. One is limited by prana. That means the Jiva who is breathing. And the second, that breathing means what? He is breathing and he is identified with the sense organs and the sense objects. That is the Vyavaharika, the waking state. Then the second one is what? Presented in the mind. And the mind is basically the dream state. The third is the pure consciousness state. So the pure consciousness state seems to have assumed the form of the waker and the dreamer. What is the nature of this consciousness? What is the nature of this Atma is described in these 6 points which are given here. Number one, it is not a part of the body. It is not the product of the body. It is not a property of the body. So first thing is, it is an independent principle. It exists eternally. That means it is there in the past, today, and it will always be there. Even after destruction of the entire universe during Pralaya Avastha, this consciousness will continue. That consciousness is not available for transaction because the medium is not available. Suppose the body and mind does not wake up after going to sleep. I will remain as consciousness. I will have no problem because even now, without the body and mind identification, I am there. So that is what it says, that this consciousness, I am always free. Taittiriya Upanishad describes a person who has identified himself with the Atma. What does it say? He says the entire world which I see is nothing but my own form, because it's the same consciousness which is now projecting this entire universe. And having identified with their pure consciousness, he says, I am imperishable because I am always there. That awareness principle is always there. That is what is said in the Taittiriya Upanishad, the first chapter. So these are the thoughts of a person who has realized that Atma is an independent principle and I am that. For people who are listening to this talk, if you are able to take your mind and say, I am that pure consciousness, and really you believe that you are that, at no time you will ever come back and say, no, I will again identify with the body as, not as, I will still identify with the body and mind for doing transactions. That you cannot stop. But the only difference is, I don't say that I am this, that's all. It is possible for us to live with this thought. When I do that, then what do I say? I put on a vesham, I put on a coat, I put on a dress. My dress for the interaction is called as the dress of Shaker, the dress of Stephen. This is a dress, it's a name. It's a name given for, it's a name, the dress is given a name. All of us have got names. The names are nothing but just a dress. During the waking state, we put on the dress and then we interact. We have happiness, sorrow, dejections, frustrations. All this come and go. But it is a dress. I never forget this fact. It is a dress I'm wearing, but it is not my intrinsic nature. Upadesha Sara, written by Ramana Maharishi, very beautiful way he describes the same. Veshahanantaha swatma darshanam. Vesha, that means he says that this waking state dress is a dress which I wear. Isha darshanam swatma rupa taha. That means when I remove this dress of mine, I remove the name, identification with the body and mind, that vision of myself is the vision of the Lord as the self. And this vision is called as true realization. A sage like Ramana Maharishi tells us how he realized this self, how he was able to lead his whole life as the self. and teach other souls who come and visit him and says, you can also be this same. Swatma Darshanam. When I drop this identification with the body and mind, I am automatically having the vision of my real nature. And he says, don't take this dress as yourself. Don't take this mother I, father I, brother I, sister I, daughter I. They are all the roles we play. But then after this knowledge, we play the role with the knowledge that I am that pure consciousness. Like the tambura, the thing which goes on for a singer, I am that pure awareness. That continues throughout the day. At the back of my mind, it continues. I am that pure consciousness. When the mind gets disturbed, yes, I identify with the mind. Whatever needs to be done at that particular moment, I do it. And then the situation changes. I am all the time aware. This Turiyam is also another name for pure awareness consciousness. When I'm aware, what will happen? The roles do not bind me. Suppose I have a fight with my mother or my father or with my husband, or I will not get too perturbed with that fight. Okay, it happened, that's it. Okay, tomorrow morning we again start the life again because it's a new day. Same thing happens in the office also. So this is the knowledge which really helps us to conduct life very well as a Jivan Mukta. The 33rd verse, limitation is illusory. These are all the teachings for what? Teachings to know that I am the Atma. Limitations are illusory. These limitations are faced by all the jivas. The jivahood, that means I am that mother, the motherhood, the daughterhood. These are all the attributes of the body and mind. Not the attributes of Atma. This is the way I must learn about myself. Jiva is not enclosed in the body, mind, intellect, but he is seemingly enclosed. It appears as if I am inside the body. Consciousness is inside the body. This is an illusion. That is what it says here. Like all pervading space is not only in the pot space or only in the room, it is all pervading. Like that, all pervading consciousness is indivisible. It can never be cut, burnt, or dried. This is what it says in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. All bodies exist in consciousness, they're supported by consciousness, and they resolve into consciousness. That means I take consciousness as the most important factor which I should know. That is why when a student goes to the Guru says, if you have not known who you are, what is the use of leading the whole life in turmoil with the identification with the body and mind? Because you don't know who you are. Body cannot limit the consciousness, and therefore we say this body is of a lower order of reality. Mind is also lower order. The higher order is Atma. Why does it appear that I am limited? Because of the reflection of that consciousness in my mind. When I wake up, that reflection has a limitation of the mind. And what happens is, the pure consciousness, I falsely transfer myself, the pure consciousness, as limited to this mind. Therefore, I feel as if I'm limited. I experience a dream. I create experiences of the dream world. I create the experiences of the waking world. Thoughts come and go. That is what is called as limitation. Whereas my experience as pure consciousness is like what? If you want to have a sample, they say it is exactly like our sleep state, deep sleep state, where there is no dream. So that is my real nature, the taste of Paramarthika Jiva. That means I am that all the time. So if I want to remember my real nature, just one glimpse of that sleep state is enough. One small thought, it's only a thought. You bring back that, you try to remember that thought of myself in dream, myself in the sleep state. Without this knowledge, it is an ignorance. With the knowledge, it becomes Atma. Chandogya Upanishad, the very famous Upanishad, consisting of 8 chapters, it says very clearly that you are not the jiva in the waking, but during sleep, we are one with Paramatma. Very important point we must remember. I keep on saying that our experience in the sleep state. And why do I say that? Because of the strength of the Upanishad, because it has been mentioned in the Upanishad. But one thing we must remember, that I am there in deep sleep state, that is a knowledge. I am one with Paramatma in the deep sleep is knowledge, is understanding, intellectual understanding. It is not the actual sleep state, which is with ignorance, because that the actual sleep state is a guna of the, is a tamo guna of the mind. So my real nature, Swarupa of Paramarthika Jiva, is nothing but that Brahman. And that is the nature which obtains in me all the time. Therefore, I can say, Aham Nitya Mukta Asmi. Nitya Brahma Asmi. And we'll just finish this 34th verse. It's so just one page. This Vedantic statements, Tattvamasi, thou art that. We have done this Mahavakyas in our meditation sessions. What it declares is the identity of the pure formless Brahman with the Jiva. That means you are saying that there's only one entity in the entire creation, and that is the same as my Swarupam. Therefore, I am not the waker, I am not the dreamer. I am, out of the 3 levels which we have discussed, I am the Paramarthikam, I am not the Pratibhasikam or Vyavaharikam. Now you understand what is the 3 terms, what do they mean? So Tattvamasi, when the teacher says you are that, it means I am that Paramarthika Atma. Only when the mind comes, I get the reflection either of Pratibhasikam in dream or Vyavaharikam in waking. I can never see my original face. This is a fact of life, except in a mirror, but that I can only see a reflection. Similarly, I can never know my real Atma's nature. I can only see the reflection. When I see the reflection of mine in the waking state with this body, with this beautiful body, with the mind, I can then take my mind off to that face, that original face, which is without the reflection. Similarly, in dream, I try to remove intellectually the dreamer and say, who is this Sakshi? Who is this light in which this dream is appearing? So when I try to do that, what I say is, in the Mahavakya Vichara, Mahavakya analysis, the you, the jiva, is called as Tvam. And Vachyartha means the the indirect meaning of I as this body and mind, that is called as Vachyartha, the normal common parlance of a jiva, which is the reflected consciousness. So what I do is I try to take away this. Whenever I'm identified with this reflected consciousness, I am called as either pratibhasika or vyavaharik. When I identify myself as that pure consciousness, that word they use for explaining this in the Mahavakya is called as Lakshyartha. Lakshyartha means indicative meaning. It indicates my real nature. It is not the direct meaning of I. It is an indicative meaning of I. So Mahavakyam is a pramanam. Pramanam means it's a source of knowledge for this pure consciousness, which is free from all the limitations of the body and mind. Next week, we will start with the 35th verse. We have we have a few verses, about 35 to 46, 34 to 46, 34, 35 to 46, about 11 verses are there. So let's see if we can either do it next week, complete next week, or the following week. Then after this, I'll be taking, we have finished the 8th session of Drg Drishya Viveka today. Next week will be the 9th session. Either we'll have one more session or 2 more sessions for this Drg Drishya Viveka. And then I plan to start Bhagavad Gita, chapter-wise discussion, chapter-wise study. And we will see how it goes. At the end of this, I will take a small survey of people who want to join the Bhagavad Gita course. Or we'll be doing all the 18 chapters. And we will see how to construct the entire course. Once I know the numbers, then I will decide. Okay,